Thank you, Vicky, for the introduction, and it's been a very interesting debate. I hope everybody has enjoyed it so far. I certainly have. I haven't been able to enjoy the wine because I haven't spoke yet, but I hope that my glass will still be there when I go back. But some very interesting, I think, one of the most interesting probably areas in terms of these challenging existing rules and revolutionizing the way basically the production and consumption of goods and services is organized. What I think is transformational for me of what we've heard tonight is this ability of bringing innovation to different industries by challenging traditional view about how to organize economic activities. Economic activities, we are finding out, can be organized in other ways. What I think we've also heard how the sharing economy, I think it was a speaker from BlaBlaCar said it's not a new thing, and car sharing. I remember, going to high school when I was a kid in Florence and sharing the back of my Vespa with my neighbor to go to the school. So, it was a very basic ride-sharing system, but it could only be possible with people you knew directly. I think this is also the great innovation here, is not only this platform, they're able to build scale quickly because they build trust and reputation mechanisms that people believe in. People buy into those. And let's not forget that thanks to the technology and spread of digitalization, that also helps to acquire scale quickly, and now we can feel the impact of the sharing economy globally. Before it was, these things existed but were localized on a small scale. So the real transformation to our economy. And that brings new markets are being created, but also all the existing markets are being reshaped. From an economic perspective, I think the new platforms for me, the crucial thing they do well is they're able to reinforce traditional market institutions by leveraging technology and the internet. So, in matching demand and supply, they solve a lot of friction between potential buyers and sellers. That means more trades, and that means a more efficient use of human and capital resources. In setting prices, the internet allows a variety of pricing mechanisms, allows real-time adjustment. Building trust and reputation, platforms rely on review systems and social networks. And we have seen already that while those systems are by no means all of them perfect, but there is a self-healing capacity into the system. Problems are being spotted and being corrected. In terms of much of the discussion was really about what do we do about this. These are huge benefits. We can see that this is transforming in a positive way societies and economic activities. But there are challenges to rules. The theme of tonight was the shared economy and competition policy. However, I think we've quite heard, starting with the speaker from the Commission, how actually quite a lot of the problem today seems to be around sector-specific regulation. So what do we do about that? Because at the moment, what we have in some cases is a two-tier regulatory system that applies to digital and non-digital services and products. But while digital before was something sort of like separate, now digital is pervasive. We are no longer able to draw a line between what is digitalized, what is a digitalized service or platforms, and what is not. Everything is digital. Therefore, I think it's time to bring all the services that competed, that consumers find as substitute, and they are substitutes. If the consumers use them as substitutes, there are substitutes. Therefore, one unified modern regulatory framework which looks, starting with the purpose, probably we need to redefine the purpose of those frameworks for consumer protection, for trading standards. What purpose do we want those frameworks to serve in the 21st century, when the world is going more and more towards strong digitalization? And then we talk about the competition policy aspect. I think some consensus, and I agree, some of the points raised, quite interesting. Probably not the first order problem. There is a wider issue about platform dominate the market in some specific aspect, but I think there is an issue with any big company in any sectors. I think key was pointed tonight, market definition for competition authorities. Does Airbnb compete with an hotel, for example, or a bed and breakfast, which is a different type of accommodation? Where do we draw the line? Or a camping? Who knows? So you have all these different questions, and I think it's important to look at what the consumer is thinking and how the perception and attitude are changing. The way consumers are, I think the trust and reputation for me as an economist is quite interesting, because really consumers are doing their own trade-off about what they think is safe and secure, doing it to trade it off against a lower price. They're doing that, and by large, these things seem to be working. On competition, I think the point about making sure that at the same time as being transformative, a lot of these platforms are underneath lies some specific technology, which is very hard to understand, or application, very hard to understand for the people that is not involved in it, and I think even more for competition authorities. So I think there is a real danger if we don't have a system that allows competition authority to monitor all transaction. And I agree with Alexander in pointing to the takeovers, because the merger regulations, I think the revenue benchmark is not the right one anymore. We need to think about what is the right benchmark going forward. But certainly that benchmark alone might not be the right one anymore. So, and I think it's a very important point. There is companies emerging. We need to protect tomorrow disruptive, tomorrow BlaBlaCar, tomorrow Airbnb, wherever they're coming from. And this is how we keep the market innovative. And also making sure that I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years' time we start seeing the likes of Crown Plaza bidding for the new Airbnb, or those operations where suddenly there are attempts to either sort of like put up strategic barriers to entry, or they try to sort of like incorporate and kill the competitor. That can happen in every other way. It can be an existing, traditional economy player versus a new one. We've heard before Booking.com. Booking.com, I started using 3 years ago, is already old word. They are not the new thing anymore. So they are now as well engaging in, we've heard in one case, in restrictive prices. So it's no longer about the old, traditional versus the new. I think it's becoming one sector, one economy, where all players compete with each other. And finally, the other elements I think that was mentioned on competition policy actually wasn't mentioned, but I think we touched on it, the network effects point. Because I think for competition authorities, I was trained as an economist to deal with physical bottlenecks, where we go, we send a couple of engineers, they break up a cable, dug a pipe, do something physical, and that addresses the problem. Then they pick the pipe, put it somewhere else, or give it to someone else. With those type of network effects, with platform where the customer multi-homes regularly, it's a very different world. So even if you had a problem, is the problem non-transitory, for example? Can we really bank on the fact that some of those, they have a lot of customers, we call it, or participants today, are able to maintain them just by sitting on them? I'm not sure. So far, the market is proving very dynamic. Maybe in 3-4 years' time, we're going to be in a different place. But I think it's important even more because of that on one side, competition authorities are able to have a look at it holistically, hold the transaction. And on the other, we also start some thinking about the toolbox and how do we address, if we never need to, the network effects which are non-physical but very, very significant. And last but not least, a lot of these operations are global. So it's no longer about competition authority in one country or regulators in one country. The taxi element, I think, is quite interesting. I was quite pleasantly surprised, to be honest, tonight, that only once we mentioned the word Uber. And I thought tonight was going to be dominated by, is Uber good, is Uber bad, what do you think? And instead, I think we've heard there's a lot more than just Uber to the sharing economy. And that more, I think it gives a flavor of the possibilities out there. So thank you very much.